This video will contain an explanation of phonetics in terms of suprasegmental sounds, where these suprasegmental sounds describe other types of sound which occur when segmental sounds work together in language. And this section consists of stress and intonation. But before I start, I will divide topics into three topics that are still interrelated. First, suprasegmental sounds in the context of Indonesian learners of English. Second, suprasegmental sounds in introducing phonetic term. And the last, suprasegmental sounds in word stress. In the beginning, I will explain about suprasegmental sounds in the context of Indonesian learners of English. In this context, many learners of English think that having good English means that memorizing many vocabularies, knowing many grammar rules, as well as speaking fluently. Yet we examine the most important thing is to have good pronunciation and put priority to learn that. Because when the students don't have good pronunciation, people will consequently have serious problems of understanding what they say, even if they use correct grammar and a large number of vocabulary. It indicates the proper pronunciation is essential to them to have natural and correct English pronunciation. They want to easily understand native English speakers and want the native English speakers to understand them. Here we go. To achieve natural and accurate pronunciation, learners need to do the following. First, have knowledge of making correct sounds of consonant and vowels. Second, know how to pronounce words correctly with special attention to stress and intonation. The third, make correct intonation when constructing different types of sentence. In this section, we will study suprasegmental sounds, stress and intonation as a special effort to improve the learner's English pronunciation. Before that, you need to know that English pronunciation is very different from Indonesian pronunciation. The difference can be seen from two perspectives: the perspective of articulatory phonetics and the perspective of acoustic phonetics. From the perspective of articulatory phonetics, the difference can be categorized in three groups. The first group, there are some sounds of English do not exist in Bahasa Indonesia sound system. For example, I, a, the. Second group, the sound exists in language 1 and language 2, but they have different phonetics features, such as is never pronounced clearly in English, but in Bahasa Indonesia, this is always articulated clearly wherever it occurs in the words. And the third group, the spelling of English words, for example, as, is sometimes pronounced in Z in English. On the other hand, acoustic phonetics have perspective. The word stress is a big problem faced by Indonesian learners of English in pronouncing English words, because most of them do not have adequate knowledge of how to put stress properly on syllables of English words. They tend to put stress as the like and frequently used stress patterns of Indonesian. This is a mistake because the word stress patterns between English and Indonesia are quite different. Word stress in Indonesia is penultimate syllable even without stress at all. But that stress in English is commonly placed the first, middle, or last syllables of words. Indonesian speakers do not know that there is sometimes a different stressed syllable in the same word. For example, the word record as a verb and as a noun. As a verb, she wants to record my speech. The stress placed in the card syllable. While as a noun, she wants to buy you a record. The stress placed in the rec syllable. Even if stress is that difficult, it is still very important to master, especially when the learners want to achieve a good level of English language proficiency. Now let's move on to the second topic. Some important phonetics terms related to suprasegmental sounds. This explanation will be very helpful for the learners in facilitating them to understand further discussion of this section. We'll begin from stress. Stress is defined as an emphasis in the form of loudness given to certain syllables in English words or press. Stressed syllables are commonly heard strong, loud, and long. In contrast, unstressed syllables are weak, soft, and short. To indicate stress, the symbol comma is given in front of a syllable, which means that the syllable must be articulated longer or louder than the other syllable. Next, syllable. A syllable is a unit of pronunciation for words which is typically made up of one vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants. For example, the word water consists of two syllables, wo and te. English words have many words with different numbers of syllables, and here are some examples. For one syllable, like cat, two syllables, today, three syllables, expansive, four syllables, independence, five syllables, uncontrollable, six syllables, responsibility. Next, word stress. Word stress is a certain emphasis given to a unit of pronunciation in individual words, not in phrases or sentences. In English, short words usually have one stress and longer words usually have two stress, with primary stress and secondary stress. But the secondary stress is always a much smaller stress. In most literature of phonetics acoustic on English, it is generally recognized that there are at least three levels of stress. First, primary stress with comma. Primary stress is the strongest emphasis which is given to a syllable in a word. Next, secondary stress with happen. Secondary stress is weaker emphasis than primary stress, which is given to another syllable in a word. And the last is unstressed with no mark. Unstressed is the weakest emphasis which is given to syllables in a word. And the next class of our stress. However, not all words are stressed. In English, many language practitioners agree that words can be categorized into two types, content and function words. Native speakers of English tend to place stress on the syllables of content words, but no stress in function words. Content words are usually in the form of nouns, verb, adjective, as well as verbs. And then function words include articles prepositions, auxiliary verb, pronouns, as well as conjunction. That means the stress only places on nouns, verb, adjective, and adverb, but not on article, prepositions, auxiliary verb, pronouns, or conjunction. And next, emphatic stress is in emphasis, which is given to a word or a sentence, and is said usually to indicate importance, to single out, to compare, to correct, or to clarify things. This kind of stress is commonly used with emphatic expressions to emphasize or to intensify a speaker's strong feelings. Next, intonation, pitch, and tone. Intonation, commonly described as a rising or falling pitch over a group of words. Intonation is used to distinguish different types of sentence, such as statement, questions, commands, or requests. In other words, pitches are recognized as the voice pattern of intonation. On the other hand, tone tends to show how something is being said. It's more like an attitude rather than obeying a voice pattern. In our social interaction, we frequently hear someone speaking happily or angrily. The sound of modes that the one uses is called tone. And for the last topic, we have suprasegmental sounds in word stress. As you know, word stress is very important for three reasons. The first, stressing the wrong syllable in a word can make the word very difficult to hear and understand. The second, stressing a word differently can change the meaning or the type of the word. And the third, even if the speaker can be understood, mistakes with word stress can make the listener feel irritated or perhaps even amused, and could prevent good communication from taking place. This section deals with the discussion of ground and general rules that learners should keep in mind regarding word stress as they speak English. Ground rules in this context refers to basic rules of or principles on which the way of placing stress on syllables in English words. This should be based on three ground rules relating to words. A. One word can only have one stress. B. We can only stress vowels, not consonants. And C. Word stress is complicated in English. In addition to the ground rules, placing word stress also has general rules. General rules refer to some usual ways that native speakers of English have in placing stress on the syllables of English words, and the rules are simply seen from the perspective of practical. There are at least 8 general rules of word stress which should be used by the learners of English as a foreign or a second language to improve their English pronunciation. Among other things, A. Two syllables, nouns, and adjectives. The general rules: the stress is mostly placed on the first syllable. For example, for noun, word table, syllable t in bow, and stress placed in the first syllable, which is t. And second adjectives, word special, syllables p in shell, and stress placed in the first syllable, which is p. But the every rule has an exception. This rule has an exception as well. For noun, the word hotel, syllable hotel, and stress placed in the last syllable, which is tel. So it's pronounced like hotel. And for adjective in the word Extreme, the stress placed in this syllable stream, so it pronounced like extreme. Two syllables, verbs, and prepositions. The general rule when an English word is a verb or a preposition and has two syllables, the stress is mostly about 80% put in the second syllables. For example, word impress, syllable im and press, the stress placed in the second syllable, which is press. So it's pronounced like impress, impress. There are of course exceptions to this rule as well, in which few English verbs occasionally have stress on their second syllables. Here are the examples. The first, welcome, welcome. Second, happen, happen. The third, whisper, whisper. And the last, guardian, guardian. All these have the stress on their second syllable. In addition to verbs, two syllables preposition also have stress on their second syllable. Let's take a look at the following preposition. Like word about, syllable and about. The stress put on the second syllable, which is about, so it pronounced like about, about. Words which are both a noun and a verb. The general rule in such a case, if the word being used surfaces as a noun, the stress is placed on the first syllable. However, if the word functions as a verb, the stress falls on the second syllable. The following example is a percentage stress on syllables both noun and verb. Word conflict. Syllables conflict, stress in the pronunciation is in the first syllable for noun like conflict, and for verb, stress in the pronunciation is in the second syllable like conflict, conflict. D. Three-syllable words ending in er or ly. The general rule, if the words ending in er or ly, the stress is commonly placed on the word's first syllable. Look at the following example. Words ending in er. Officer. The stress placed in the first syllable o, so it pronounced like officer. There are also many exceptions to this rule, as found in this word in which the stress is not put at the first, but is on the second syllables instead. A doctor, announcer, and the last is composer. And next word ending in ly, like family, family. Just like the other rules, this rule also has exception to some three-syllable word ending in ly, in which this word the stress put on the second syllable, not the first syllable. For example, the word sincerely, assembly, words ending in ec, sin, and gen. The general rule, as we want to articulate words of English ending in ec, sin, or gen, the stress is commonly placed on the second to the last syllable of the word. Here are the examples. Words ending in ec, like linguistic, linguistic, and words ending in sin, comprehension, comprehension, and words ending in tin, discrimination, discrimination. Even if the rules of placing stress on English words have been briefly described, but it is fully realized that mastering the rules is not easy for two reasons. The first, language use is dynamic and it may cause many exceptions to the rules. Second, Indonesian learners of English have to work and to study hard to get it or to master the rules. Therefore, you have to go through a lot of practice and repetition over and over again. In a nutshell, these 8 rules provided in this section may be felt a bit overwhelming to many Indonesian learners of English, but they can generally be used as a reference in their effort to improve their pronunciation skills.